Hi, my name is Jatin Dua. I'm an associate professor of anthropology at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor in the United States, and the incoming editor of Comparative Studies in Society and History, CSSH. My background is I'm a historical anthropologist whose work is focused primarily on maritime mobility and its interruption in the Indian Ocean and oceanic spaces more broadly. My first book was on maritime piracy off the coast of Somalia and in the Western Indian Ocean, specifically placing contemporary piracy within longer currents of debates over legal and illegal commerce, as well as notions of risk, trust, and protection. And one of the things I did in that was move both across time in thinking about the histories of piracy in the region, but also comparison across space and scale in asking the questions of where does the boundary of the Indian Ocean end, in specifically in looking at the connections that between piracy and economies in places as far afield as insurance markets in London and private mercenaries from South Africa. I'm currently working on a book that explores various kinds of lines at sea, from shipping lines to maritime borders, exclusive economic zones, and trade wars, and asks bigger questions about what it means to how lines at sea end up shaping the world that we live in and its possible futures. So I'm an author. So I published a piece in 2019 with CSSH. I have been on the editorial committee, which is the group that works with the editor, in essence, shepherding papers as they come in, and move through the process. And I was on the editorial committee from 2020 onwards, and came in as the incoming editor from June of 2024. I think academic publishing is in a really interesting moment. There used to be a certain model of how academic publishing, especially journals, worked. Journals were physical, they appeared regularly, they were often read cover to cover. And now, that system doesn't exist. Reading practices have changed, consumption practices have changed. We tend to think of articles as opposed to whole issues. There are both opportunities as well as challenges that come with open access. And even across the fields that I'm most familiar with in anthropology as well as in history, some of the conversations that are happening, there are multiple centers where conversations are happening, and one of the challenges is how where are interesting conversations happening, and how to pluralize that, how to make bring people in contact and in conversation through the journal. So I think there's been an there's a rethinking of what the journal format is. There's a rethinking of what its kind of political economy is, how it can work not simply to gatekeep knowledge, but also to be um, part of democratizing and disseminating the idea of what's going on, and also what journal articles are. And I think one of the things uh, that is a challenge across the board is how reading practices have changed, for students, but also for fellow academics and others, and what it means to and what is the future of the journal, but also what is the future of the article in that mode. It's an incredible opportunity to be involved in a journal that has certainly shaped mine, and for so many, their intellectual trajectories. This has been one of the most prominent interdisciplinary journals. Some of, in essence, like went through as an undergraduate or graduate student, and as a professor, like assigning reading articles that have come out of this journal that have shaped so many conversations in the field, and to be part of that is an incredible opportunity. It's also exciting to be at CSSH in a moment where we are transitioning to becoming an open access journal and the possibilities that come with that. Um, and just, ultimately to be in a in a journal where we're both deeply committed to empirically grounded, solid research, but that at the same time, primarily through this question of comparison, but also interdisciplinarity, is transregional, asks big questions. And I think that's one of the things that I'm really excited to be to see and shepherd through as editor. We're deeply interdisciplinary. We are transregional. We have had incredible coverage of regions in Europe, the Ottoman Empire, on questions of colonial and post-colonial societies in Asia, Africa. We've expanded in some ways to as in part as previous editors who were a historian and a sociologist in working in Brazil as well as in Eastern Europe to cover those fields. So I think I'm excited to continue expanding the our geographical depth and breadth, as well as work across scale and time. As an anthropologist who works on oceanic spaces, I'm really interested in seeing pieces that come in that are thinking about region differently, that are thinking about region and questions of connection and comparison in ways that aren't limited to countries, to national boundaries. And another thing that we're really excited about at CSSH is creating some more curated conversations through special sections. We as a journal have not done special issues, and I think but what we would really like to do, and in part it's as conversations happen in research groups in these smaller communities, one way that we would like to be part of that is bringing 4 to 5 papers together that are thinking across space and time in a kind of special section. And that's something that we're really excited and to experiment with and to invite contributions for. CSSH always has wanted and had a desire to and continue to expand its temporal horizons to go do more ancient history, and go back in time. But also one of the things that I'm really excited about and see coming in and would like more of are papers on climate change, on extractive economies, on questions about the future and what kind of future, what sort of planetary future we exists or is possible in this moment. And I think this is where thinking comparatively and thinking transdisciplinarily and transregionally can help break out of some of the silos of global north, global south kind of thinking that and disciplinary silos that where these conversations around climate change, around extractive economies often happen. So one of the things we're really excited about is thinking what comparison and as well as these broad scales can do for asking big questions. I think CSSH, and sort of biased here, is a special journal. It's special both because it is deeply interdisciplinary in terms of our review process. So when you submit an article to CSSH, it is being read by your reviewers are historians, sociologists, political scientists, anthropologists. So from the very beginning, you're entering into a conversation that exceeds the sort of disciplinary audience that most of us spend most of our time talking with and talking to. And one of the things that also is unique is that given that many of our reviewers have been CSSH authors, and there's 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 a deep, and I've been impressed, and one of the things I've been really impressed by just in the short time I've been at the helm is the detailed, engaged ways in which reviewers have, and the generous ways in which reviewers have approached texts and authors, and just, it's very heartening to see the time and labor, and I'm very appreciative to see the time and labor that our reviewers put into um, the review process. So one of the things you get when you submit to CSSH is this deeply engaged transdisciplinary, interdisciplinary engagement with your scholarship. That makes it not only work that is rigorous, that stands the test of this review process. But once it comes out of this review process, it makes CSSH articles reach wider audiences, reach across disciplines, and I think that's something that we've all kind of hope with our scholarship, right, to do. And another thing that I think CSSH offers is we're one of the few journals that has gives you a wide canvas. We have a 14,000 word submission. You can submit up to 14,000 words, and what that means is that allows space for something that is not only deeply empirical, ethnographic, archival, but also that then can incorporate comparison across scale and time, that can incorporate within it also conceptual thinking all at the same time, right? And having that space to maneuver and to think with can be an incredibly generative experience. So I think that is another unique an important reason to publish and submit to CSSH. And finally, alongside our reviewers, I really have to say that our um, managing edit, the entire process that I've inherited of how a manuscript is handled is incredibly, is incredibly focused on the author and making sure that we are communicative, we are getting things in time, we sort of guarantee that you will have a decision within a specified amount of time, and that your paper will come out within a year of submission, and that's something that we really strive for. Additionally, and something I also look forward to working and expanding more on, is we've developed a companion website where shorter pieces, companion pieces to articles can come in, conversations with editors, interviews with multiple authors happen. So all of these things end up being, extra, and draw out other facets of research within one process. And finally, I think even though reading practices have changed, even though sort of the shift, CSSH, like many journals now, is online only, we still take seriously the idea of the issue. And one of the things that as editor I get to do, and that's really exciting, is in not only in the editorial for creating an editorial forward that is not just a kind of summary of the papers that are in the issue, but a place where we try and bring together and pair different papers to create parallels, to create connections, and at times disjunctures. And I think that can be another way in which one scholarship you know is lives on in a different way, creates connections, sometimes across authors, across disciplines, and I think that process of that added layer of comparison is really helpful um, to the authors as well. I think the move to open access, the is an exciting one. I'm really, we've thrilled about the possibility that journals, are not hidden behind academic paywalls and other such restrictions. It's something that we are really committed to at CSSH. We're also committed to thinking about where academic conversations are happening, who gets published, whose voices are featured prominently, and that's something that I'm really looking forward to, working with authors, making sure that we have, you know, we're drawing from and drawing into conversations that are happening not just in a few places, but across the globe. And we're really excited to have those opportunities and to have, the journal available to people both within universities as well as outside it.